Okay, so we're in the 90s and everything is going good. The Cold War was finally over. I was born in 91. I'm officially old. The Spice Girls came onto the scene and was the biggest pop band. Grunge music was at an all-time high, with Nirvana telling us to come as you are. Beanie Babies became the Beatles of toys as people were rampaging through shops like Arnie and Sinbad at Christmas trying to get a Turbo Man doll. Home gaming consoles were firing up big time with the SNES and the Mega Drive, or Genesis to my fellow Americans. Sonic made his debut and advertising was extreme! I mean, look at this picture for the software catalogue from 91. I have never been this excited to be playing a point and click adventure game on the PC. This poor dude's enjoyed it so much he passed out, and this guy... bruh. All these kids in that picture would join up again to do a recreation of this classic photo in 2016. Playing Sonic. Extreme! We truly entered the digital age as mobiles were replacing landlines, DVDs were replacing VHS, and we have the ultimate tech of the 90s, the internet. Arcades were still a huge thing, with Pac-Man gathering dust to play Konami games like The Simpsons and X-Men. Mortal Kombat started in the arcades as well, then got ported to the home consoles, and that game is the reason we have video games ratings now. Thank you, parents. We love you. Street Fighter 2 got the same treatment, with getting people to enjoy the arcade hit from the comfort of their own home. With popular games, a string of live action film adaptations were made also, like Super Mario Bros. Mortal Kombat also got one, with future Resident Evil director Paul W.S. Anderson. Not Wes Anderson. That'll be interesting, actually. And of course, Street Fighter. No matter what way you look at this film, the Street Fighter film was one of my favourites growing up. Obviously, back in that time, I didn't know what a good film or a bad film was, but to me, Raul Julia was pretty much chewing every scene he was in, and I absolutely adored it for that. But there is another Street Fighter film that you haven't seen. The plot truly thickens. And no, I'm not talking about the scene in City Hunter with Jackie Chan. Albeit not as well known unless you have a high knowledge of Hong Kong action cinema, I present to you Future Cops. This film was directed by Wong Jing, who previously directed City Hunter. He's best known for directing the Chow Yun-fat thriller God of Gamblers, and I will get to that film soon when all I do is make videos about Chow Yun-fat and his epic filmography. It's sublime. Eureka Entertainment in the UK released Future Cops as a Eureka Shop exclusive and limited it to just 1,000 copies, so I had to have it for my collection. As you can see, I've got a huge Eureka collection. As a big martial arts Hong Kong action cinema enthusiast, it was a no-brainer, and after those 1,000 copies were sold, no other stock was made available. You pretty much had to get it when it was there. Shortly after the release of the Blu-ray, copies on eBay were going up at least £100 sealed, but in the recent listings, it's halved to around 50 to 55. But other than that, you're gonna want to strap in for this. Before we strap into the righteous funhouse that is Future Cops, it pays to know the ringmaster behind the chaos, Wong Jing. If Hong Kong cinema were a kaleidoscope, Wong Jing would be the guy furiously shaking it, mixing genres, celebrity cameos, and outright gonzo ideas until something sparkles, or shatters. Born into showbiz royalty in 1955, Wong Jing is the son of veteran director Wong Tin Lam. Filmmaking was practically in his bloodstream, but rather than following a solemn art house path, he chose the express lane. He exploded onto the scene as a writer, producer, director trifecta in the mid-80s. Wong Jing swiftly earned a reputation as the box office whisper of Hong Kong, someone who could predict, chase and warp the next trend faster than you could say whether it was slapstick comedy, triad epic, or outright kung fu spectacle, he pumped out over a dozen films a year. Often working so fast, he would joke in interviews saying that the film sometimes felt like written on Monday, shot on Wednesday, edited on Friday. By 93, Wong Jing had already stretched parody to its limits in films like Tricky Brains from 91 and The Top Bet, also from 91. Now you know how fast this guy does work. But with Future Cops, he didn't just blur the lines between homage and bootleg, he erased it completely. Understanding Wong Jing's filmmaking DNA, his breakneck production pace, his star-studded casts, and his love of pop culture pastiche is key to appreciating Future Cops not as a guilty pleasure, but as a breakthrough of unbridled cinematic anarchy. There are films with complicated plots, and then there's Future Cops, which has the illusion of a plot before veering into a cosmetic vortex of slapstick, sci-fi, superpowers, and street fighting science teachers. Trying to describe this film is like trying to explain a fever dream. If that fever dream starred Hong Kong's biggest pop idols dressed as budget cosplay rejects. So let's break this down, as best as human language allows. Future Cops opens in the distant year of 2043. Crime is rampant, the evil general, a supervillain who looks like Bison and acts like a sentient midlife crisis, has been imprisoned, but his henchmen plan to go back in time to stop the judge who sentenced him by assassinating him as a teenager in high school. You know, like all good legal strategies. Enter the titular Future Cops, a squad of elite time-travelling officers who beam back to 93 to protect the young judge in the making, who turns out to be a painfully average student named Tai Hung. Along the way, they move into his house, enroll in his school, flirt with his sister, and helps him stand up to bullies. It's like Terminator by way of Saved by the Bell.
You made me sound like a total space cadet, man! Sorry you feel the way.
Only every character is dressed like they raided the Capcom Lost and Found bin. What genre exactly is Future Cops? Yes. Alright, thank you. It gleefully whiplashes between genres in the span of a single scene, but it's no secret that Future Cops is an unlicensed homage. Okay, it's an outright bootleg of Street Fighter 2. In fact, it was supposed to be an actual Street Fighter film. Wong Jing even announced it as such in a trade papers. The licensing fell through, presumably after Capcom saw the script and responded with a strongly worded fax. But Wong Jing didn't scrap the project. He just changed the names, altered the costumes just enough to avoid being sued, and rolled the cameras anyway. And that right there is the kind of bold cinematic piracy we can only admire from a safe, legal distance. That spirit of, nah, close enough, applies to the Dragon Ball elements too. Goku doesn't just appear, he shouts his moves and has a spiky wig that looks like it was styled by a lawnmower. Perfect! It's less homage and more assimilation. Wong Jing didn't reference pop culture, he devoured it, spat it back out as pure entertainment, no permission required. Each Future Cop is a thinly veiled version of a Street Fighter 2 character. You've got T-Man, which is played by Andy Lau, Vega, but not evil, just fabulous. Broomhead, played by Jackie Chung, the Guile clone, complete with the iconic flat-topper military gear. Well, not quite, and they actually use him like a broom in a scene. Lung, played by Aaron Kwok, is clearly Ryu, and then we have Sing, played by Simon Yam. The Dulcim character who raps so hot he spits yoga fire, and that's one for my Epic Rap Battles fans out there. The villains get the same treatment. The henchmen includes guys who look like Sagat and even E. Honda. They're certainly cartoonishly evil and occasionally incompetent, which is exactly the tone the film is going for. And in the middle of it, you have Tai Hung, played by Dickie Chung, acting as the film's stand-in for the everyman, the dorky classmate who becomes the centre of a time-travelling, fire-hurling, romantic slapstick action farce. You know how Hollywood will sometimes try to pack a film with famous faces to make up for a thin script? Future Cops doesn't bother pretending. It's entirely built around its cast stardom. Andy Lau, Jackie Chung and Aaron Kwok were part of the four heavenly kings of Canto Pop at that time. They were like Hong Kong's Beatles. Casting them in a time-travelling action comedy guaranteed ticket sales, regardless of coherence. And to Wong Jing's credit, they're all game for the insanity. No one phones it in. The sheer charisma of the cast is arguably what holds the film together. You don't need logic when you've got Andy Lau in a Phantom of the Opera mask. At no point does Future Cops pretend to be serious. It revels in its own absurdity, constantly poking fun at itself, breaking logic, physics, and occasionally the fourth wall. It's a film that invites the audience to be in on the joke. It knows it's ridiculous, it wants you to laugh with it, and at it simultaneously. Even its emotional moments feels intentionally melodramatic, like a telenovela with superpowers. Future Cops is more than just a genre pile-up. It's a cinematic mixtape mixtape of everything Hong Kong audiences loved in the early 90s. Heroic action, celebrity worship, slapstick humour, and a disregard for intellectual property laws that borders on revolutionary. It's messy, loud, and makes very little sense, but that's also what makes it an authentic product of its time. Watching it now is like flipping through an old comic book while the techno remix of a karaoke hit blasts in the background, and somehow, that's perfect. So let's ask the obvious question. How on earth did this movie happen? You've got characters who are Ryu, Guile, Vega and Goku in everything but name. You've got Street Fighter 2 moves lifted wholesale and not one cease and desist letter in sight. Future Cops is functionally a 94-minute lawsuit in waiting.
I'd better call Saul!
Hong Kong in the 90s was a unique case. It had some intellectual property laws, but enforcement was loose, vague, and often dependent on how much international heat a studio was willing to bring. The courts weren't particularly aggressive on fair use violations unless the offending film was exported widely or poked the wrong corporate bear. So as long as you changed just enough, you could basically roll out a bootleg X-Men vs Star Wars karaoke musical and probably screen it on a Saturday double bill next to Jackie Chan. In short, parody and piracy lived side by side, and nobody seemed to mind. Wong Jing didn't so much skirt the law as he choreographed a tap dance around it. He's been long open about his admiration for Western pop culture and his equal disdain for its licensing fees. It's parody, pastiche, satire, and shameless fandom rolled into one. And since Hong Kong cinema wasn't widely exported at that time, Capcom and Toei didn't exactly have region-specific legal SWAT teams on standby. Wong Jing's gamble was simple. By the time anybody had noticed, the film would already be a hit. And he was right. Take a step back, and Future Cops starts to look less like a knockoff and more like a meme before memes existed. A living, breathing remix of everything 13-year-olds loved in '93. Video games, anime, Jackie Chan stuff, that whole shebang basically. And remember, this was before Hollywood started doing it. Now we have films like Ready Player One, Space Jam 2 and the MCU, all making billions off the same crossover everything impulse. If Quentin Tarantino is praised for sampling kung fu films, spaghetti westerns, and grindhouse sleaze into high art pastiche, then Wong Jing is the trash punk version. He remixes with duct tape, karaoke mics, and zero irony. But that's not a bad thing. Seeing a bootleg Goku do a Kamehameha launching Andy Lau in the direction of a man dressed as Bison, I'm not gonna lie, that's cinema. There are moments in the film that are so bonkers and insane, you end up leaving yourself asking the question, is this good, or have I simply lost the ability to process cinema like a normal person? The Future Cops has never been critically acclaimed. No one is handing out film school diplomas based on this thing. On paper, it's a disaster. The editing is frantic, the tone is whiplash-inducing, the effects make Power Rangers look like Avatar. But that's the thing, it's never boring, and that's the secret sauce of cult cinema. Like The Room, Kung Pao Into the Fist, those kind of films, Future Cops belongs to that elite class of films you watch with friends just to see their faces melt. There's entertainment in the audacity, and there's something genuinely iconic about a film that doesn't care whether you're laughing with it or at it, as long as you're laughing. In today's internet culture, Future Cops would have been memed into orbit. There's something delightfully pre-internet about how online it feels. It's fast, ironic, referential, and doesn't care about cohesion. In a way, it predicted the way Gen Z consumes content, in chaotic bursts, stitched together by mood and moment rather than logic or flow. Does it hold up? Are you looking for a traditional movie with a 3-act structure, grounded characters, and narrative logic? Then no, this is not your film. But if you want to experience the energy of a decade colliding with itself, watch bootleg anime cosplay throw hands in a high school, laugh until your ribs hurt from sheer tonal whiplash, then yes, it holds up. Because it was never trying to age well. It was built to entertain immediately and furiously. It's not timeless, but it is time-proof. For all the parody, the legal loopholes, the slapstick, and the recycled sound effects, there's one thing Future Cops never loses sight of. joy. There's a sincere, unfiltered joy to this film. The cast looks like they're having a blast. The script, insane as it is, never tries to outsmart the audience. The action is dumb and delightful. The joke lands more often than they should, and even the dumbest bits feel like the product of people who really love movies, even if they're stealing half of them. So what is Future Cops? It's a time machine. It's a fanfic on film. It's a glorious, neon-soaked mess made by a man who cared more about making you feel something than making it make sense. And you know what? That's a superpower worth celebrating. So if you've never seen Future Cops, do yourself a favour. Grab some friends, grab some snacks, and prepare to question everything you thought you knew about cinema, copyright law, and time-travelling Street Fighter characters. Because sometimes the best movies aren't the ones that make sense. They're the ones that make you say, what the hell did I just watch? And why did I love it? Roll credits, cue Canto Pop, smash that like button, Nerdy Boy J, out.